Thank you for joining the podcast. Can you please introduce yourself?
My name is Amar Hanspal. I'm the CEO of Motif Systems.
And can you tell me about the problem that Motif is trying to solve?
We're trying to improve building design and bring it into the 21st century. We're writing software to help architects, engineers, general contractors design better buildings.
So what does it mean by moving into the next century? What's wrong with it right now, and kind of why do you need to change things?
So some of the challenges that we have today are technology-based. Some of them are just sort of practice-based challenges that in the world of building design. The act of creating buildings is fundamentally a team sport. But if you look at the infrastructure for people to work together as a team, like if you think about a client working with an architect, working with an engineer, specialists for acoustics, there's no easy way for them to share information. And so they get out of sync very quickly. And when you get out of sync very quickly, you introduce lots of challenges. That's one problem. The other problem we've noticed is that buildings today are taking into account many more parameters than they used to, especially because of climate change. They're trying to manage carbon footprints of buildings, energy footprints of buildings, and the ability to sort of really think through all of those decisions is not easy to do with the current sort of technology. Those were the things that inspired us. The other thing that we've been noticing is also communities want to get more involved in projects. How do you make things that are more transparent, open, things that people can look at and communicate? So there's a lot of how do you increase the amount of participation in these projects that we're also trying to enable.
So what I think you're saying is that you're trying to increase transparency in the process.
Yes.
You're trying to enable multiple stakeholders to work on the problem in real time.
Yes.
And you want to make sure that the data is in real time and not kind of outdated, because right now.
Very well said. You should. You said it better than I did.
So tell me about your background. What led you to this problem?
Yeah. Well, I worked at Autodesk for many years. I'm a mechanical engineer by training, but I got fascinated by software in the early days when CAD and those technologies were first appearing. And I've had this fortunate journey really with Autodesk, which is one of the pioneers of design software on the PC and now on the cloud, for almost 27 years I was there. And then after I left that company, did a few other projects, I think I was always very inspired by the work our customers at Autodesk used to do, which are the architects and engineers, the buildings that surround our world. And I wanted to sort of go back and make a contribution to them. And that's sort of like my journey to this point. It's really starting with engineering, getting involved in software, and really being inspired by buildings and the work that this industry does.
So who's a typical user of Motif?
Today, it's the architecture firms. Over time, all of the stakeholders I mentioned, like as I said, design is a team sport. We can't just build for one person, but we have to, everybody's needs sort of build one on top of the other. So we have to do this over time. We're beginning with architecture firms because that's kind of where design starts. Mm-hmm. And so if you think about architecture firms with 250 employees or more who are involved in commercial projects, your hospitals, your schools, your multi-story residential buildings, those are the kinds of people we're working with today.
What do they use it for? What does Motif do? We haven't even touched on that yet.
Right. So, Don, the answer is today and tomorrow. Today, what we've built is a collaborative system which reads data from their existing 3D applications and enables people to comment, to sketch, to mark up these 3D and 2D designs. We think of it as, our customers think of it as something like Miro, but on steroids. So like these whiteboarding applications people are using, but those whiteboards have typically been 2D based, flat, not dynamic. Our environment is 3D, so you are able to bring in buildings at scale with high levels of precision, mm-hmm. and then enable sharing. That's what people do today. The journey they're on with us is not just to do collaboration and that kind of, they want us to keep building editing and modeling capabilities so that they can start to migrate off the tools that they're using today to do more modern-based modeling.
So it can be the hub of all these tools, because right now your Miro style application is pulling the data from all the other applications you have, whether it's Revit or Trimble or whatever things that they're working on, it pulls it in. So as they make changes to those models in other platforms and computers, it's automatically refreshes.
Exactly. That is exactly. So some of the innovations we've done are exactly that, where we can automatically keep the model updated at all times. You can communicate any changes back to the source material. Like there's a lot of stuff that we've built. So simplifying it as Miro is just the beginning, just to conceptualize what it is.
That's the first direction. It's one way to get all your data into one area that they can collaborate on. But the next one is to now generate unique data on that collaboration platform that then goes back to those data systems.
Exactly.
Okay. Who are the unlikely users of Motif? Like who's using this that you didn't even think was going to use it?
I would say the clients of our architects are typically like, you think about, it's not that we didn't think, but they're not the people that I grew up working with. Like I grew up working with architects or contractors, technical people. And then you run across a person who's a, real estate developer who really doesn't participate in the design process, but now they can. Like that's been a big revelation to us. Certainly, I find Silicon Valley venture capitalists, they're not people I expected to use the product, but they've been trying it out.
Really? So basically, it's everyone.
I mean, that is the opportunity, right? To broaden the participation, to bring the community in, to have more people have voice in the process. Yeah.
And how do they feel, these unlikely users, about being able to see transparency into the project?
I mean, that is what here's the anecdote. Almost everybody I talk to will share a story of, well, I remodeled my house and I wish I had the ability to tell the architect, this is the change I wanted. So there's this huge desire for people to take what's in their head and express it visually. And it's not easy to do that, right?
Without the technical skills needed. Because the AI is helping you to bridge that gap of communication.
Exactly. There's multiple technologies, including AI, that have made it much easier for people to take what's in their head and present it visually and say, this is what I need. And then not only just it gets their idea across, it actually improves the quality of the result because you're getting multiple points of view now integrated.
How are architects thinking about this? Because this changes the paradigm of the black cape architect that goes into the room and they do their work and then they show the client the amazing building. How are they thinking about the shift in the process?
Duan, it's a great question because look, I think there's a couple of things. Architects have been rethinking their role with the rise of AI anyway. So I think every firm has been asking themselves, what is our unique value add? If more and more automation starts showing up, where do we add value? And a lot of where I think they land is in the creative side, in the problem solving side, while actually where they've been spending time all these years has been doing all of the grunt work, right? So it's like you create this beautiful building and then you spend 10 times the amount of time creating drawings and sections and details and elements. So in some ways, the architects want to offload that to something like an AI or a product like the one we're building and spend much more time with their clients, problem solving and coming up with ideas. So I think that's the evolution that we're starting to see, is that as these kinds of tools open up their ability to collaborate with their clients or with other experts, they can actually do the thing that they love, which is creating very beautiful spaces.
So let's talk about your thoughts on AI for this industry.
Yeah.
Do you think there's real value or is it hype?
It's a little bit of both, quite honestly. I think it's very easy these days to create a good-looking demo, but to actually build something that someone can use every day is hard. And there are some things that are more mature, like I would say LLMs and diffusion models today are more mature and you can actually start to deliver insights on documents. You can actually start to do good visualization. Like some of those things are much more possible. That's not hype. I actually think that is useful. It's saving people hours of work when instead of taking 6 hours to do a rendering, you can get it in 60 seconds or less and have a pretty good picture that you can share with a client. I think there's a bunch of stuff that is hypey where I watch these text to CAD kind of things. Like those are good demos, but they really are not useful. Like you say, give me a line. Like I don't see anybody actually wanting to use that on a daily basis. So I do think about half of what you see is hype and half of what you see has the potential.
So
to be
there
very
is
useful.
enough value in there for people to be worth investing in learning about it, right?
Absolutely. When I walk into an architecture firm, they're definitely investing time, and I can clearly see it with the hours. I mean, time is more valuable than money in many ways, and I see them, really investing time in this stuff.
So what kind of feedback or results have you gotten with your users that use Motif?
They like our direction. They want us to do more of it. Is the honest answer, I would say, is that, hey, guys, we love what we're seeing, like the collaboration, like this interoperability of reading data, this hub concept, the ability to, the ease of use, the fact that it all runs in a browser, all of that. We wish you could do these other 5 things. And that's that's the journey of a startup. It's like you're always going to hear that. And that's kind of what we're hearing right now.
So they like everything you're doing and they want you to do more. So basically now you just have more work than you have time. And you just have to kind of go through the backlog of features.
Exactly. It's the discipline of a startup is figuring out what to do with the limited resources. How do you prioritize?
So you would say that you hit product market fit?
We're almost there. As I would just say, we have paying customers. They're happy. They want us to do more. And the speed at which we're acquiring customers is increasing. So yeah.
So you're almost there, maybe a few more months.
A few more weeks.
A few more weeks or a few more days. Maybe tomorrow, by tomorrow, you'll be product market fit.
I feel like it'll be our Thanksgiving or Christmas present.
Okay, so by the time this episode is out there, Motif will be a product market fit.
Yes, absolutely.
And you'll be hyper growth. So we met him first, guys. We know him before he's famous. Technically, you're already famous, but we know you before you're famous. So remember us.
Always.
And then another thing is, why is there so much fragmentation and disconnect right now in projects with the different stakeholders?
What I've come to understand is some of it is just the legal structure of the industry, right? I think that the AEC industry, like healthcare, is always managing risk and allocating risk. And some of it, the fragmentation, is just the structure of the industry and the way people kind of draw boundaries and who owns what risk. And I think that's about a third of the issue, maybe 40% of the issue. The rest of it is actually technological. I do think that part of the fragmentation comes from all these things that people do with design, create these huge files. There's no easy way to move huge files. And that fragmentation comes about because it's just hard. I mean, I always find it fascinating that you and I can share a video by just a link. I can send you a YouTube video, say, hey, Duan, take a look at this. But I cannot send you a link that says, take a look at the entryway to this building. Like that just doesn't exist today. And stuff like that creates a huge amount of the fragmentation that exists in the industry.
And even if you send me the link and I give you feedback, it doesn't go back to the model.
Exactly.
But you want people to have, because a product has a lot of data. You want to be able to share some data to the right person, exactly what they want. Saying that as an entire project, these are some options for doors.
Exactly.
Which one do you like? You tell me, and then we'll go back to the model so that we'll see it. But right now, we don't have that. We had to give people like a massive file and say, hey, by the way, go to like page 983, section 4 for this detail.
Exactly. And then, even in if you give somebody a 3D model, they're very easily lost in it. They don't know where to go. Like, exactly. Those are all the things that are in the way.
Yeah, 3D, 2D environment. The data is so massive that even navigating to the right data takes people for a while because most people, they don't know how to read or it takes a very long time to read.
Exactly.
Okay, so how does Motif integrate AI into the product?
We are integrating AI. You asked me the other question about hype versus reality kind of stuff. So we are being very careful about things that are actually production ready. So the first thing we integrated was rendering. So we actually have a way of getting a 3D model so I call it from Revit to render in like 5 seconds. Like you get a 3D model, you lay out a view, you take 6 choices and you get a good visual back. Like you really do it quick and get a good result very quickly. And that's because diffusion models work, and we have done a bunch of context engineering on top of it. That way of integrating into the heart of the product experience is the way we think about AI. We're going to do it with a few other things. We're going to do it with data next in the way we are going to expose search and all these capabilities. What we don't subscribe to is doing it like as a co-pilot off to the side. We don't think that's the right model for the future. We actually think just the way today, nobody has knowledge of using cloud technologies. Like today, when you're using a web application, you're not exposing whether you're using Cognito on the back end or it's just wrapped into the user interface. That's our mental model for AI and ML, and that's what.
So it'll be part of the product without people knowing it's part of the product.
Right.
It'll be so integrated that they can't even tell it's AI.
That is the model, and I do think for power users, you have to be able to expose a higher level of control, but for 99% of the users, you want to do it exactly the way you
And right now, I see that Motif, I saw some demos, and what you can do is you take a sketch. You just sketch random shapes, and it'll generate for you architectural renderings of what it may look like. So they can make very early schematic design or just massing decisions without much drawing.
Exactly. So sketching, photo to render, there's a lot of ways in which we can speed up the conceptual process.
Are you guys going to enter generative design where you're looking at layouts and you're looking at different kind of generations of ideas based on some constraints and parameters?
Absolutely.
Is that where you're entering?
Absolutely. It'll take us a while to do it well, but we will do it.
Okay. So, because what you're trying to do is very ambitious because you're starting with the 3D model itself.
Yes.
Because if you only do 2D, that's much easier to do generative design on just 2D. But you're starting with 3D, and then now you have to connect that 3D to a 2D in case you make like 10 floors. Yeah. And then you generated that versus the geometry that you already started with.
So do I right or wrong? I think part of the challenge for us is we're an ambitious group of people. We gravitate towards the hard problems. That is a hard problem. Yes. We want to do it well.
Because I think 2D generative design is much easier. Definitely. If you just say that, hey, I just have a site plan and I want to do my 2D, that's easy.
Yes.
But when you try to do first the sketch for the 3D and then cut it into floors, but that's where the value is, because to me, the value long-term is unlocked through the hard problems. You do the hard problems because people can't do the hard problems.
Exactly. That is exactly right. And there's the one thing interesting, the one opportunity in buildings and stuff like that is there are repeating patterns that you can automate. Mm-hmm. If you do enough training and development on this stuff.
So what are some uncommon truths that you figured out from your experience? You've been at Autodesk, your startup, that other people are not aware of that you would like them to know?
It's a great question. I need to rack my brains on that. Because I think a lot of what I know, it seems very self-evident. But I think one of the things I've learned, it's a thing that people say now in the Valley quite a bit, is the team you build, is the product you build, is the company you build. It's so interesting to see that eventually what shows up in front of the customer reflects the personality of the team that built it. Like if you have a slow, disconnected product that's not working, it's because the team is that way. And I think over the years I've learned kind of like how you construct sports teams, like you need a skill set, but you also need a culture of people working well together. I think that's the one thing.
So this is for both product and for projects as well, because construction projects is based on the people working together.
Absolutely.
The skills, because it's not, you don't just get it because you have one or two key performers. You actually have to get the culture, because you need a lot of people to do these things well.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if your product is messed up, it's not the product. Yeah. It's the people and culture. 100%. The root cause is the team.
100%. Always.
It's not even the process. You have the product, and you have the process, and you have the people. The true root cause is the people. Exactly. The process, what we do is we try to say that, maybe we can't change the people, we can change the process a little bit. But that doesn't fully give you the leverage. The real leverage is at the people level.
Exactly. 100% agree with you.
Okay. What do you think is broken about the industry today?
We've been touching on it. The fragmentation, I think it's excessively cautious at times in terms of the ability for people to work together, risk-taking, data sharing. And I think it causes a lot of the eventual challenges that we see. I think that's a fundamental number one challenge in the industry, is the fragmentation is both the blessing and the curse. I mean, you encourage specialization, but it goes too far sometimes. And it ends up with disconnected and buildings and costs and schedules that don't quite work.
I would say fragmentation isn't the problem. The problem is that there's no easy way of integrating those fragmentation. Integration is the problem, not the fragmentation. Because you need fragmentation for people to have specialization. Because we are trying to build a structure using all materials on Earth. Right? Any material you can think about, people are using. Any type of finish they can use. But now we have specialized in wood and all the materials and finishes and everything. There's companies that just make doors.
Yeah.
There's companies that just make windows. That's all they do. There's companies that only make tiles. If you order the gray tile, they'll make the gray tile.
Yeah.
They'll make you exactly how many tiles you order, and then when you order later on, the tiles don't match because the materials changes. But I'm saying that fragmentation is a natural part because you're drawing upon a lot of people and a lot of resources that come in. But I think the real problem is how do you integrate that fragmentation in order to deliver the value you want? Because right now what happens is that we try to integrate it, but it's way too messy on the people and data part, and then we lose the value that we intended to get.
Yeah, that's well said, man. Thank you.
Okay, so besides Motif, what are some of the companies that you think are interesting in doing like innovation, great things in this space?
In contact or just...
well, just say in contact first, and then in general after that, if you want to.
I mean, I do think the emergence of these AI native companies, Trunk Tools is a good one, DataGrade is another good one. Like these are good examples of companies that are thinking AI natively and extracting and solving some really important problems in the... So I've definitely been impressed by these startups, those couple that I mentioned. In the broader industry, I think these... for me, in the last month, the audio startups, like I look at 11 Labs or, oh my God, those things are almost frighteningly good.
Or the automated calls.
Yeah.
Calling.
Exactly.
You call and you can't tell it's a human or an AI. Now, you can't tell.
I know.
You almost can't tell. Like, they can clone your voice.
I know.
So if you call me, it might be an AI.
I know. And I think it's very impressive what is capable technically, and as always, you worry about the...
It's very scary security, because as long as I get your phone number, I say, hey, hi, I'm Amir.
Exactly.
It's you.
Send me money.
Send me money.
Exactly. So but I think technically that's been very impressive to watch the growth of that capability.
Yeah, so we already had Tiago from DataGrid here. I'll talk to Sarah from Trunk Tools. But what we want to do is have more founders tell their story and really understand the innovation is happening. What I say is that unless you're in Silicon Valley, you're not actually aware of some of these things happening because the construction industry is very big and very wide. But even in the construction industry itself in Silicon Valley, not everybody has the time to investigate all the new ideas because it can be very fatiguing if you look at 100, 200 ideas a year.
I know. And again, you have the people who are just doing a very surface level implementation, the people who understand the thing deeply.
Do you think that there's too few startups right now in contact, or there's too many? Or what's your assessment on this situation?
I think it's too few. I think it's really a large industry that is still in the early innings of digitizing or automating. I think there's still a lot of opportunity left. And I think this is an industry that should see innovation is catching up now to years of of not having technology being purpose-built for it. So I think there's like a huge amount, and I think even if there's 200-300 startups, that's not enough for this industry.
And we're very archaic, right? So the way that the industry works is that we go to trade shows, and then people come to the booth, and then you give them a demo. Like, we're one of the few people who have done a proper in-person podcast, or even having good marketing materials to explain to people what the companies do, which is like we're way behind every other industry.
What's funny to me is that I advise a lot of startups call me for advice and stuff like that. Anyone in contact almost always is trying to talk to you guys. Like you guys have that reputation in terms of like being forward thinking, forward leaning, construction company, engineering company that's trying to leverage digital technology for good.
And the CFI events, you hosted one previously this year. Do you recommend people attend these things? Or?
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned there's a lot of innovation happening. You need to stay current. This stuff is moving faster than I've ever seen it. Like at the speed, I was fortunate enough to watch the PC industry emerge when it did in the 80s and 90s, and then cloud emerged in the late 90s and early 2000s. This one's going like at a rocket speed. And so anything you can do to keep yourself abreast of what is relevant to your industry is like super important.
It's changing by the week.
Yes.
It's literally the week.
Yes, I know.
But this week, next week is like different. It's a different product.
I'm telling you, like we as software developers use a bunch of the AI models to develop. What we were using last week is not what we're using this week, to your point. Like we literally went from Anthropic's Claude Code to OpenAI's Codex and back to the the fast model from the cursor guys. Like, it's moving like every Tuesday it changes.
Okay, so what's your vision for the future of this industry?
I really believe in buildings that really open the level of expertise involved in designing them. Like, I really think of a future where the community, the broader, or all the firms involved have a much more transparent and open communication and better decision making. I think about like 10, 15 years out, that should transform. I also think that the methods of fabrication, the way buildings get put together, that's a whole different side where we are not as directly involved in. That needs to evolve as well. Like, I do think that this dream of how buildings get assembled, like planes and whatever, so ships get assembled,
like Legos and
like that. There is some truth to that. I would love to see that happen, because I think overall we do need to reduce the footprint that we impose on the planet with all of the materials and all of the waste and all of the stuff that goes into this process. I mean, buildings are critical and they're hugely important, but we need to do a better job assembling them.
So right now we're at 2025. What do you envision the industry looking like in 2035, which is about 10 years from now?
I definitely a much better sharing and much less ambiguity in the way the end result that we're developing. Let me try that again. In 2035, I would really hope to see that buildings, the way teams come together today to develop digital products is the way teams come together to build physical products. And today, that transformation hasn't happened. That's the number one thing I'd like to see. I hope to see different in that time frame.
So it's about the people at the end of the day.
Exactly. The people, the expertise, stuff that's locked in people's heads being able to be, brought forward.
So you said that your goal is to create the software and AI tools to allow people to really take the things from their heads and work together.
I would love to democratize design, is the way I would put it.
And to let people who are not traditionally architects be involved in the decision making and also in the collaboration and having the AI tools create that ability for them to participate.
So Duan, today, it sounds an exaggeration to say I'd like everybody to be an architect or a general contractor, but think about today, everyone can almost be a software developer. Like if I said that to you 10 years ago, you'd be like, no, man, that's never going to happen. But that's incredibly much more possible today. Right. And while we may not go all the way there for a bunch of, legal reasons and stuff like that, you certainly want to empower people to be almost there.
Yeah, or to go as far as they can.
Exactly.
And they don't have to have all this long education or training to participate. Because right now the barrier to entry is you must do all these things before you can even sit at the table.
Exactly.
Now we say, okay, sit at the table, whatever you can contribute, you can contribute. If you can't contribute, it's okay, just listen.
Exactly. Exactly.
So we're at the end of the podcast. In the next 30 to 60 seconds, I want you to tell the audience like one thing that you want them to take away from this conversation. What's the one point that you wanted to hit with them with?
I believe we are at an inflection point where between the way the industry practices are changing and the way technology is evolving, we can completely transform the way buildings are designed. I do think that the 21st century buildings need a 21st century approach, and that's partially enabled by technology. A lot of it is enabled by the way the industry is thinking, and I just really think this is a very exciting moment, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Okay, well, thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you.